Mril Masani, how do you do? You probably all saw Sam Smith with his Satan at the Grammys. Well, today we'll be discussing that and art as power. Satan at the Grammys, which is meant for children and young people, showing that the West no longer cares about raising its children. Complete art strategy versus art as power as it originated in the legacy strategy way with Cosimo de' Medici and the Medici family, who were commissioning Donatello, Michelangelo, and the great Renaissance art. So let's look into this. So in my secret group right now, we have an art historian doing a series on Cosimo de' Medici and art as power. So it's quite fascinating. And my Instagram link is below if you're interested in applying to the secret group. Meanwhile, so we looked at the Grammys, right? At the Grammys, the audience is youth, right? Children, because honestly, past a certain age, people tend to have their tastes like rock and roll, opera, jazz, something more sophisticated. And the audience for those things are usually university age, high school, this sort of a thing. And they had Satan dancing there, which really shows that the West has lost its soft power. Who in China would want this influence on their children's music? Imagine the audacity of having, and the foolishness of having Satan dancing for your children's music awards, right? Who would want that for their children? The rest of the world would be less interested in Western music and more interested in Korean music, for example. Because who on earth needs that? Why? So what does Satan represent? And I'm not one of those pearl clutchers, I'm just bored. And I'm self-interested. So Satan represents the diabolical, or in English, the root comes from tearing apart, right? So he represents tearing apart the family and the R strategy, the poverty strategy. Satan is the god of broke, dusty losers, right? Live fast, die young, sleep around, don't take responsibility, nag all the women as possible, say, nice lady parts, are they real? Nice melons, are they real? Nice nails, are they real? What do you bring to the table, right? And is that your real eye color? They're awful, right? They try to break down your self-esteem to get you into bed for free, and they split the bill. It is so awful to be around these dusty losers that women are much happier single. And what does this do? It means women stop reproducing with men, and that's the whole point of Satanism, right? The point is for people to hate each other so much that they stop forming a community. They're torn apart. They become individualized, right? Rugged individualism. At the end of the day, I know that's America's history and that's what they love, but I think it's a form of Satanism too, because no man is an island, and we derive meaning from being together, from being kind to each other. So even if you're not a religious person, why would you want to split the bill on a date with a bloke dusty loser, and this lad just keeps hammering with you with insult after insult to try to break down your self-confidence? I mean, isn't it better to be home alone and pet your cat, or to go out with your girlfriends? Why on earth would you need those dusties? And this is what Satanism is. That is what it promotes, right? At the end of the day, I mean, do you enjoy going out with these, they call themselves red pill one day, or the other type are these nice guys, right? So they are basically woke fishers or feminist fishers, they will say whatever. Suha calls it the cuddle mate dating strategy. But so what they do is they say that they're into whatever you're into, and they're so nice, and then they say, I'm your friend, I only want friendship, and so on. And you think they're your buddy, and then you do your nails together, you do your hair together, you go shopping together, and you think this is your girlfriend. And a year later, he attacks you. He's like, why don't you screw me? Why did my nails together? I did, our facials together. We went shopping together. I suffered through all this. Could you please give me a mercy, BJ? I mean, it's horrific. Would you want this at all? That's disgusting, right? So, you either have that, or that's one form of diabolical men. And of course, these ones, they don't want, and these cuttlefish, of course, it's 50-50. They don't pay for your nails at the salon when he gets his done, right? He pays for himself, you pay for you, right? And so if you even go on a date with such a loser, then he'd split the bill and you would not be happy, right? It all boils, Satanism somehow all boils down to gentlemen splitting the bill. I don't know why, but that is how it happens. It's always where it ends up going, right? And they don't want to take responsibility, right? And they're awful. So at the end of the day, you prefer to be alone, right? Or you prefer to go with your girlfriends, right? And that is, and then what happens quite often is that it teaches women to be mean, right? Mean girls to, why? For example, PETA, anti-fur, social justice, right? You think you're helping people, but it's actually a form of Satanism, right? Because you attack someone else for your supposed morals, right? So you're destroying the community for some self-righteousness, which at the end of the day, none of you weak young people are going to achieve on your own. You need billions of dollars to achieve any social change. All you do with this social justice and anti-fur and all of this, right, is the diabolical, right? Is Satanism. That's all you're doing, right? Because all you do is break down your social network, right? For example, what happened during American abortion debate? That was diabolical. So many women went out there and started attacking and shaming all their friends who might be slightly conservative or something like this. And I might be pro-choice, but I saw this satanic propaganda and I said, you know what? When this is over, so will be your network. I am a former activist and I destroyed a brilliant network. My father was advisor to Yemen's president, so you can imagine the network I had, and I burned it over activism, social justice, and, network is net worth, and I burned down one of the most precious assets I've had in the name of good that I could not even achieve. So, when you alienate and attack your friends over some moral, that is diabolical, right? Instead of thinking, okay, the most important thing is our community, is our relationships. So what can I do, really, to talk to my friend who has a different view and find some common ground, find some diplomacy? So promoting a lack of manners in the name of something good, a lack of diplomacy in the name of a good cause, this is a form of Satanism, right? Because it's the diabolical, because it breaks the community, right? And then it's so easy for the giant corporations and for the elite to rule you if you're all broken, right? That's why, it takes a small group of narcissists, dark triad personalities. It takes one lemon to ruin the barrel, one bad apple to ruin the rest, right? It does not take a lot of bad elite, but it just takes one or two people who are diabolical, thinking, oh, I just abuse my billions and I promote our strategy, and then that will break down the society, that is diabolical, that breaks down the family unit, the community, and so on, so they cannot rise against me. Then I can sell them really terrible products, overpriced, price gouge them, ship jobs abroad, and I can really milk them. They know I am screwing them over, but they can do nothing to stop me, right? So that is why you will see a lot of big corporations promoting unhealthy things in America, because they can. Because individualism allows this diabolical behavior, because rugged individualism is an American value. The moment Americans finally see the value in community is above the individual, a lot of this nonsense will stop. The rest of the world is more community-oriented and has survival values and is not interested in this toxic garbage. So the lady who sang with Sam Smith said that she was interested in religion when she was younger, but religion was not interested in her and did not accept her. Well, of course it didn't, right? And, she's was not born she, so she thought that's it. But you know what? Faith is all about survival values in difficult circumstances, right? So, outside the prosperity of the West, in the developing world, your children are your pension, and they're also your nursing home care. So promoting LGBT to a country like Yemen will only cause death to a large percentage of the population, to even 6% or so of people. They'll die a painful death when they're older, because they'll have no one to take care of them when they're old. And that's really awful, and that's actually satanic, right? Because it's the short-term thinking. They are with the person they love, and then they have no one to help them when they're older. And that is really something that we should talk about. The big problem, I think, with conservatism versus woke is jerks and scammers are very good with words, and they know how to make themselves look good. But if you're just a person who has done something good, or you're living the life, how do you explain that, right? How do you explain that what you're doing gave you a good life? You just live that. You're sitting there and doing. So you're not thinking words, right? And that's why good people often lose to bad people, because good people just do. They don't think of how they are a good person, right? Whereas bad people think, how can they convince others that they're a good person when they're not, right? So that's the whole thing when it comes to our strategy, right? Our strategy is the whole dust, live fast, die young. Basically, it's the jerks who are on dates, who just want to bang, who insult you, or they pretend to be your girlfriend and they feel entitled to do you and split the bill, and they're pretty awful too, right? Basically, our strategy is bad dating. Kay's strategy is good dating. It's legacy. It's a man being a gentleman, treating you right like a lady. Sam Smith made me question if I should listen to Beyonce, because, she accepts the paycheck from the same people. Notice how classy and beautiful her performance was in the Middle East, where she covered up and used the beauty of her voice to wow the audience. And in the West, what she does is run around half naked, right? Such a different contrast, because look at the different sponsors. So when a Western artist is sponsored in the West, I would question the wisdom of listening to this person and why they are funded in the first place. They're probably funded for level-down propaganda, which is not in my interest. So instead, I listen to either older music or music made outside the West, because we become what we listen to, and I just don't want to listen to any more level down propaganda after this. And now we'll talk about Cosimo de' Medici using art as power in a legacy strategy way, which was the beginning of art as political power in the West in the Renaissance in the 1400s. Sadly, this also enabled colonialism, but at the same time, you can use art as power and legacy strategy to your own advantage yourself, and we're taking the power to empower you. So, in the 1400s, Florence had a battle with Milan and won the battle. So, Cosimo de' Medici commissioned Donatello to create a sculpture of David triumphing over Goliath to enhance the prestige of Florence. He had in his garden, and that's how it started. And he, of course, funded art in the church to atone and so on, and funded beautiful art. So then his sons did this, and his grandsons became the rulers of Florence because people admired them so much as a result. Look at the power of beauty and beautiful art. Wholesome, beautiful art brings people together, is medicine for the soul, and creates a legacy for generations that enhances your social status. So, very similarly, Michelangelo gave a sculpture to Roberto Strozzi, and he gave this sculpture to the King of France, right? Because he hoped that this would influence him to bring Florence independence. So art was actually a very important tool of politics because it did have quite the powerful influence, right? And in the 1980s, if we look at the power of, let's say, Hollywood and so on, they were not going into all the diabolical stuff, but they were promoting level up propaganda, how to get ahead, all these beautiful things, the supermodels that were hyper feminine, and then you'd have Rambo and all this stuff that was so aspirational. The rest of the world wanted to live like that. The rest of the world does not want Satan to teach their children how to ruin their lives and how to make boys into broke, dusty losers, and how the girls would be crying, and then single cat moms as a result, because being a single cat mom is much better than dating a broke, dusty loser. End of the day, that shows the power of art to level up or level down. And when art brings people together, it creates a legacy. And people preserve that for generation after generation. And other cultures get influenced by that as well, right? Because if you look at the beauty of Western classical music, it inspired, when you had colonialism, for Arabs to similarly organize and have systematize the classical Arabic music. And you had beautiful things like Kulthum and so on. That was it was really great that one form of beauty inspires another form of beauty, right? So after I just saw a clip of the Grammys with Satan, I thought, you know what? They're irrelevant. I look at the Miss Universe contest, and now it's all diabolical. It's all about what they've been doing, which is disgusting, is when the girls were asking about a conflict of interest, the promotion bots of the organization users started going after individual girls who had questions about the ethics of the organization, and started the organization's promotion bots started bullying young women. So it went from an international event that brings people together to an international event that tears people apart. So ladies, go after your own self-interests and don't listen to this slick propaganda and pretty words that are out there to make you persuaded and manipulated to go against your self-interest. Put yourself first, ladies. Put yourself ahead, because who are the people paying for all this Satanist ridiculous rubbish? Well, the author of the article, Luxury Beliefs, Rob Henderson, was doing his PhD thesis on this. He says that he noticed American elite, many of them talk the swinging 70s, but live the 1950s. So all these people promoting this mainstream rubbish, they live the opposite. How do you think that they kept wealth in their family for generations? By living a conservative legacy strategy way. And look at Naomi Biden's wedding dress. Look at Nikki Hilton's wedding dress and Kate Middleton's, right? They're conservative. And then at the same time, people like this, right? Families who have wealth in America, while they will live in a conservative way, they will pay for people, some of them, minority, as gatekeepers. And it's a couple people paying for this that influences the direction of Hollywood, as Hollywood will chase wherever the money is going. And you have a couple people who think it's funny to gatekeep, to tell the masses, to have our strategy and divide the masses so they have power over them. And they live conservatively, and they talk the opposite, and are quite hypocritical. When you look at Justin Trudeau, he talks about feminism, and yet his wife is a housewife. So what kind of 50-50 feminism equality is that, right? So that's why you have to wise up to people's games, look at your self-interest, and look at the classics in how you can get yourself ahead in this world. The trouble of those who live the good life is most of them, they're too busy living a good life to have the words to describe why what they're doing is good, whereas the scammer, the usurper, always is the king of words, because that's all they have. They have nothing else to offer. So always remember that lesson and be wary of those good with words who mock others. So always put yourself first and think long term. Is this going to serve me and build the life I want to live? And build a legacy for generations to come. If you enjoyed this, please like or hate, share and subscribe. Ciao.